Hello and welcome back everybody. Today we're going to do a proposed minimum requirement to play Mechwarrior 5 Clan. The proposed minimum requirement go as follow: i5 8400 or Ryzen 5 2600, 16GB of memory, a 6GB VRAM GPU, either the GTX 1060 or the AMD Radeon RX 590, which by the way is a 8GB card, not a 6. The X12, 80GB of storage, and it says SSD is strongly recommended. 720p low quality settings, but we don't know to target which FPS. And finally, you need internet for co-op game and no internet required to play the single player campaign. Welcome to Response PC, I'm Dunk, let's game on. I first want to say that we're going to do the testing with the Ryzen 5 2600 because I don't have the i5 8400. In terms of difference, apparently the i5 on paper is about 11% more performing than the Ryzen 5 2600, which I have some doubt, but anyway, the i5 84 is 6-core 6-thread versus 6-core 12-thread for the Ryzen, and also the i5 is only at 2.8 GHz of frequency versus 3.4 for the Ryzen. So the Ryzen have higher core and higher frequency. So obviously we're going to play with the Ryzen 5 2600, and we're going to start with the NVIDIA, the GTX 1060 6GB variant with 16GB of memory, and we're playing at 1080p low settings. I won't touch a 720p, I think it makes no sense, and most of people are playing at 1080p, and that way we get an average of 33 FPS. This is highly playable for this kind of game, as 30 FPS is plenty enough. Maybe the 720p was to reach a 60 FPS, but I'd rather be 30 FPS 1080p than 720p 60 FPS. The GPU is pegged at 98% of utilization with a 4.8 to 5 GB of VRAM, which is perfect, and the CPU is in the mid 40 of utilization, which is also perfect. And for the system memory we are at 9.8 to 9.9, so the 16GB of system memory is also perfect. So far the GTX 1060 6GB is a pass, but keep in mind as still in the beginning of the gameplay. Maybe later in game or end game it will become heavier for the GPU. Now since setup, but with AMD side of things, is the RX 590, 8GB. I don't think there's any other variant of memory for that card. And in my situation, like a lot of people using AMD RX card, I get an error code. Not exactly an error code, but more like a error, a fatal error. The Unreal Engine Mechwarrior 5 Clan game has crashed and will something fatal error, and the only option is OK. So browsing the Steam community on the Mechwarrior 5 Clan, this common issue was able to be fixed by using -force disable SM6 in the Steam command line. But apparently it have been fixed because the hotfix number 4, it was we have a smaller hotfix patch deploying right now. Thank you again for your support and feedback. Fix startup crash on certain AMD and Intel GPU. It doesn't say anything else. So if you still have the crashing, the solution is -force disable SM6 in the Steam command line. Now since the game can launch, let's play. And as you can see with this command line, all the shadow is flickering, like heavily flickering. I don't know what the disable SM6 actually disable. Maybe a shadow messing number 6, but the flickering is all there. I didn't test the game after the hotfix number 4, so maybe this is resolved. Anyway, with the flickering shadows at 1080p low settings, not 720p like they set for the minimum requirement, we have an average of 46 FPS. This is highly playable for this kind of game, so I don't know where the 720p come from. I mean, I don't know where they base their information to say that it's 720p to be able to play the game at minimum requirement. GPU utilization is at 100%, that's what we want. We're using a 4.1 GB of VRAM out of 8, so that's okay, I guess. The CPU is in the mid 30 of utilization, and the RAM is at 7.7, so almost 8GB is enough with the all AMD setup. I say almost because there's not much thing going on the map beside the one enemy units and the terrain and some trees, and it's probably running even better because the hotfix number 3 actually was a performance patch. So in my opinion, in conclusion, that the proposed minimum requirement is quite straight on the target, beside the 720p that make no sense that no one is playing. Almost no one is playing at 720p. Thanks for come watching, see you on the next one, and subscribe.